English translation 457th contact. Wednesday, 12th December 2007, 14:43 hours.
Oh, you are already here. Be greeted and welcome, dear friend. Have you been waiting for long?
I also greet you, Edward, my friend. No, I only arrived a few minutes ago. And before you ask about what you instructed Florina for me to do regarding Australia, respectively, the website of Vivian Dyson, after all my clarifications that I carried out, I must explain that everything by the two regarding their website is absolutely counterproductive as well as non-objective and shows a certain fanaticism. The website should be deleted immediately, which would rather serve the truth as well as the two authors. The whole, as it is set up, cannot serve the purpose because the attacks have not been kept neutral, and in addition they are only built up on claims, which cannot be proven by the two authors because the evidence put forward by them is unobjective and extremely poor, besides that they are personally aggressive towards the sect. A fact that cannot be denied and which can bring forth great harm to both of them. All of it is an extremely thoughtless matter and on top of it against the rationality, because when such aggressions are practiced openly towards a sect or against individual persons, then on your earth this goes against the right to live one's own life, which must be adhered to, even if the accusations were true, which in this case, however, cannot be proven by Vivian Dyson. Therefore, they are being held accountable by the sect via the jurisdiction. If open or private attacks occur against persons or sects, etc., then all truthful facts may well be openly named, however, under the omission of any names, because as soon as they are named, a personal attack is happening. Criminals, felons, liars and cheats, etc. may not be openly named as such on your earth against all sense of truth and justice, even if their culpability is proven or otherwise obvious, because illogical and unjust laws prohibit this and it is punishable, whereby criminals, etc. are protected in their actions by false justice and false laws. But what Vivian Dyson produced with their website are pure suspicions which they fanatically fight for and which they only devise from the propaganda material, without having real evidence that what they so vehemently and fanatically claim and openly publish is in accordance with the reality. Therefore, in this case, libelling must be referred to because assumptions are not equal to the truth. But in this case they equal suspicion, which corresponds with which they are for as long as the opposite cannot be proven publicly, respectively, that the accusations are accurate. Thus Vivian Dyson are not only guilty of suspicion, but also of libeling, unless that they can prove their claims without doubt, by observing those machinations that they accuse the sect of, in the presence of witnesses. And what is to be advised now I can say in the following manner. Vivian Dyson should immediately take down their website and dissolve it definitely, and distance themselves from any further action in regards to their accusations. Because this alone would be right, not what they are doing with their website. Those two got fanatically carried away under the wrong understanding of what is right, from which they can never emerge as victors if they cannot verify their claims with strong evidence, which must be accepted even by a court. And that they end their actions as soon as possible corresponds by itself with a healthy rationality.
This is extensive and clear, but I have already advised both of them of the same. But without success, because they are not teachable and they stubbornly insist that they are in the right, even though this is not the case, which also follows from your explanation. But I will phone Elizabeth today and fax through your words, so that she can email it to both of them in Australia. The irrationality that goes out from both of them, after all my interventions via Elizabeth, does not give me great expectations that the two will come to the rationality.
Then they will have to walk the path of harm.
We say to that, whoever does not want to listen must feel it.
A true word which will also be proven in this case, if the two are not teachable and do not walk the path of righteousness. And there is no doubt that they are on the side of fallibility, which inevitably means that they have to spend long periods in prison.
So that is undoubtedly the case, and so it is already established. Here I have a few more questions, if you do not mind answering them, if you do not have anything else we need to deal with first.
Of course you can ask, because there is nothing else we need to discuss first, so there is no hurry. What we still have to work through together, we can do after your questions and after you have answered them.
Well then, for about 10 or 15 years or so, there has been film footage floating around that shows so-called rods. At the 250th contact, you and I talked about the so-called bioorganic roods with the following words: Pleiadian Pleiaren Contact Reports, Conversations, Volume 7, page 298-299, saying the following.
On the other hand, however, it happens more frequently that bioorganic flying objects appear in this space-time structure, not only on the Earth, but also on many other inhabited and also uninhabited world bodies. So we can observe such bioorgans, as we call them, also on our worlds, although we do not yet know exactly what kind of life forms they are. The dimensional changers, as we will continue to call them, are larger and smaller airborne bioorganic life forms, often fluorescent or with very strong light radiation and located in a parallel space or parallel universe. In their kind, they are absolutely harmless and even playful. They often appear individually or in smaller groups, and their size can range from a few meters to several hundred meters in diameter. They live in a parallel space which is still closed to us, whose data we know well, but into which we have not yet been able to penetrate in such a way that we can establish communicative contact with these life forms.
These rods are bioorganic flying objects? In my opinion, they should be, because the bioorganic flying objects I have seen on monitors in your ships look very much like the ones I have seen on TV lately.
It is known to me that for some time now, Earth humans have been filming rods, as they call them, which are actually bioorganic flying objects.
I thought so. Question settled. Then the following. In 1975, Sim Yase said the following, which I will read here as an excerpt from Volume 1 Second Contact, 3rd February 1975. Pleiadian Pleiaren Contact Reports, Conversations, Volume 1, page 33.
In spite of the many cheats and charlatans, there are many who really had or still have contact with us. But countless of them have never had more than visual contact with us. Contact persons who only saw our beamships from a distance and were often able to take photographs of them. But very few had personal contact with us, and that is still the case today. Most of them, however, remain silent because they are afraid of their fellow human beings. Oftentimes, also racially foreign beings have penetrated your Earth and have undertaken their expeditions here. They collected various things that could be useful for their investigations. And it will also happen again and again that such beings come here and do their studies. They come from different worlds and systems. Often they are new to the field of space travel, and therefore, in order to expand their knowledge and expertise, they conduct expeditions. It can happen that they get in contact with the Earth humans unintentionally, but never come back again. They do not lust for power and the like, for they are glad that they finally have peace and order on their own worlds. With them, it can also happen that they take possession of some Earth humans here and there, take them into their beamships, and examine them very carefully with their apparatuses, and determine their anatomy exactly. but let these humans go again without exception, because they do not want to harm them. They are often more humane than the Earth human being. Unfortunately, however, also quite barbaric beings travel the world space and come here and there to Earth. Many of them are power-hungry and evil. With them, it can happen that they rob and kidnap Earth humans, also other planet people of other systems, and bring them to their home planets. There, these poor creatures then lead a life as objects of exhibition and experiment. The terrestrial human and all other inhabitants of other worlds must be wary of these creatures, for in their wickedness they often use the worst violence. Feelings and other humane traits and movements are often foreign to them, so that life means nothing of value to them.
Now the question when such incidents as described by your daughter last occurred. Can you give information about them?
Of course, for it is no secret. The last event of the kind that my daughter has explained with regard to contacts of examination and real abductions of terrestrial human beings by Earth foreigners was more than 370 years ago. And as far as the few personal contacts between Earth humans and us are concerned, these Earth humans have not been among the living for a long time. And you know which ones they were. And what is currently in the earthly airspace, apart from us who are Earth foreigners, are those three groups of which we have spoken several times during the last months. We do not know of any other Earth foreigners because our monitors have not revealed any further information. We are no longer concerned with these three groups because it is no longer in our interest to have contact with them. However, we should also mention those strangers who have been in contact with the intelligences of Giza since ancient times and who came to Earth from distant worlds. These, however, we do not count among the usual very rare Earth foreigners who came or are coming to the Earth.
And in regard to the three groups that have been traveling around our world, do you have any new insights on that?
As I mentioned before, we are no longer concerned with them. They are indeed active in the whole earthly airspace and also in the outer Earth envelopes. Furthermore, it seems that they have no knowledge of each other, as I explained to you before, just as they have absolutely no knowledge of our presence, although we leave it at that, because, as we could clearly see with our latest technology, which we received from the Sonerne, their technology and their behavior as well as their evolution of consciousness is still very much in need of development, and this, although they are masters of space travel and probably also of time travel. Therefore, it would not be good if they became aware of our presence and our home worlds. Although they are apparently aware of our contact with you, as we have found with them, they have no proof of this because we are not recognizable to them, so they cannot locate us or our flying apparatus, which irritates them.
And when you are with me, like you are now, they cannot track that either.
This is completely impossible because our technology does not allow any tracking in relation to our flying apparatus and ourselves. Our present technology is shaped such that we can only be seen and located if our protective belt can be penetrated, which we can prevent. Only when it is in our will can we be seen and located, as is the case right now with you, who are in my direct protection zone and you can see me.
Aha. I suppose that is the technology I experienced with you outside Bernadette's room when we suddenly found ourselves facing each other without me noticing you before.
Yes, it is actually that technology. When you are standing outside the screen, which cannot be located by any lower technology, you only see what the foreground and background and the surroundings allow you to perceive. Only when you can step inside the screen, which I have to make permeable, then you can see me. But even in the state of making it permeable, the protective screen cannot be located, nor, of course, the person inside it. On the other hand, all our flying apparatus have been equipped with the same system for quite some time now, because the old shielding technology was not as perfect and efficient as the new one.
But you could not be seen or located with the old shielding.
That is true, but the newest technology of the sonar is much more efficient.
I have been approached again and again from all over the world about sighted unidentified flying objects and whether they have come to you.
It cannot be about our and our Federation's flying apparatus, because as I explained to you several times, we do not allow any more sightings in this regard, which will continue to be the case. Thus, such observations can only be natural phenomena and earthly flying apparatus or those of the three foreign groups.
I also think so, and if you could be sighted and photographed by any Earthlings, as for example by our group members, then this was especially arranged by you, as it was when I could take the proof photos according to your order.
That is correct. Further photos of our flying apparatus will undoubtedly no longer be possible, because the earthly computer technology does not allow any more proof photos as you could still take them. Because the technology that now prevails makes it easy to falsify such pictures, which was not possible at the time when you were commissioned by us to take the films and photos. Also, we will not allow any more photography to any group members as a favor. We will no longer make any exceptions, not even with regard to observations. Everyone has to accept that. And when you are no longer, then this rule will apply definitively anyway, whereby we will then also withdraw from the earth and never come back here again to get in contact with a person of this world again. Because when you leave, then our mission with regard to the earth and its humanity will also be finished.
Then another question that comes to my mind. Once upon a time, it must have been years ago, if I am not mistaken, our earthly would-be astronauts lost a long cable from their space station, which became independent and floated away, surrounded by dozens or hundreds of glowing objects of various sizes. Do you know anything about this?
Yes? What do you want to know about that?
There was a movie about it on TV. In my opinion, these white glowing flying objects were nothing else but bioorganic flying objects, or rods, as they have been called by the Earthlings since they were able to film them.
Your assumption is correct.
Good, then it is settled. Once again, I was asked about the latest state of the Earth's population. Do you have more recent results? Our Earthlings are still talking about the number being around 6.5, or 6.6 billion 6,500,000 or 6,600,000.
Our investigations are still ongoing and will not be completed until the end of the year. But I can give you the figure we found yesterday, which is 7,684,227,000 and 416, 7,984,927,416 Earth humans. This corresponds to more than 1,000,000,000 humans more than the earthly calculations indicate, which is because only superficial calculations are made by those who are commissioned to count the earthly population. And all the indigenous people, the bush and jungle dwellers, and all those who live in underground cities of world cities or otherwise in underground shafts. Galleries, tunnels, and sewage systems, or as marginalized or subsisting people on the streets, etc., are not counted. And all these Earth humans, whom we also record in our investigations, are to be recorded with more than 1,000,000,000,000.
Then I will ask you about it again in the new year. During your last visit, you wanted to tell me something about Guido, but then you forgot.
That is true. Concerning Guido's book, it is a necessity for me that he write an additional short chapter on overpopulation and the resulting consequences of climate change and natural disasters, etc., to which you too should add some more, in addition to the letters written in 1951, 1958, and 1964 to the world leaders. With regard to overpopulation, an article by a group member would also be appropriate. whereby I would also like Hans-Georg to write a useful explanation regarding the photographic evidence that you had to produce of our flying machines before computer technology made it possible to falsify photographs such that their validity or falsity can no longer be recognized.
Well, I will talk to these two gentlemen and see if anyone else is willing to write a contribution to the overpopulation chapter. But may I ask if you have any news regarding predictions?
There is very little to report. A seaquake of magnitude 6.9 occurs off New Zealand, causing severe damage on land. Then, on the 27th of December, a suicide attack is carried out in Pakistan on the opposition politician Benazir Bhutto, in which she is seriously injured and shortly afterwards succumbs to her injuries. That is all of extraordinary news that I can report until the 25th of January, next year, 2008. What happens on Earth in the period until then cannot be classified as extraordinary.
Not much, but it does not have to be that bad things always happen. I have no more questions, so we can move on to what we still have to discuss.
Then I will start with this.